Very good morning to everyone. Today we are conducting our 105 webinar of Manage Saturday webinar series. Manage has been conducting Saturday webinar series continuously from 10th October 2020. It is one of the initiative of Manage CAA with core objective of strengthening the agri startup culture in India by supporting startup to attain knowledge and understanding about the various aspects of agribusiness ecosystem, which help them to design their entrepreneurial pathway to start and lead an endeavor. About Manage, National Institute of Agriculture Extension Management is an autonomous institute under the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare, Government of India, the apex body for agriculture extension situated at Hyderabad. A glimpse about Manage CAA. Manage Center for Innovation and Agripreneurship, called Manage CIA, is an agribusiness incubation center operating at Manage, and it is one of the leading agribusiness incubator across the country. Manage CIA acts as a platform for nurturing, supporting, and developing agribusiness ecosystem across the country. Manage CIA takes an important role in converting agribusiness ideas into reality, supporting agripreneurs to achieve their agripreneurial goals and facilitate them to design and structure their business. As you all are aware, today topics is role of satellite intervention and agriculture development opportunities for startup. To deliver this vibrant topic, two eminent speakers have been joined with us, Dr. Satkumar Tomar and Dr. Raghunath P. With a great pleasure, wholeheartedly, I welcome both the speakers and all our participants to the 105th edition of Manage Saturday webinar series. Wishing you all a very fruitful and effective session. So first session will be delivered by Dr. Satkumar Tomar, founder and CEO of Satyuk Analytics Private Limited, focusing on use of satellite remote sensing for precision farming, risk estimation, and credit lending in the agriculture sector is some of the key area of Dr. Satkumar Tomar. With expertise in using microwave satellite data for agriculture and water resource, he marked his name in many national and international publications in similar area. He had also worked as a research associate in leading university at France for 3 years. With great pleasure, I welcome Dr. Satkumar Tomar to the webinar. Your floor is all yours, sir. Now you can take up. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, thank you, sir, for the nice introduction. So, sir, you have the PPT. You will present, or I should present from here?
It's totally based on your convenience, sir. If you want us to operate it, definitely we can do that.
You can operate because sometimes WebEx has issue. It's a bit more complicated than
Done.
I.
You can just guide us when to change it, sir. That's it. Okay. Now we are sharing from our side.
Surely, thank you.
Yes, thank
Saurabh, you can load the presentation.
Yeah, he's on it. He's on it. Yeah, the PPT will be loaded, sir. Meanwhile, you can just start, sir.
Okay, I'll
You
start.
can give a brief. Yeah, please.
So, it's nice to, like, sir, introduce. My background is, I come from farming background from Western UP, basically a sugarcane farmer. Though we talk about sustainable farming, but in our area, we use a lot of sugarcane. And, moved into satellite remote sensing. See, one of the issues we see in agriculture, in water resource, in fact, in many area in developing countries, we have lack of data. We don't have much of the data. And whenever you want to make a decision, it could be business decision or any other decision, we need to have a data. So what we are trying to do with the help of satellite remote sensing is, how can we bridge this gap? How do we bring this data? How do we bring the information which can add value in decision making? So the idea of starting Satyuk is how we can use, whatever I learned as a student of science, to take it to the farmer and other agriculture ecosystem player, like agriculture companies, input companies, output companies, banks, crop insurance company. So this is what we are trying to do. Next slide, please. So to briefly tell about company, we are about a 4+ year old company, and we started as a more like a consulting company, how to use satellite remote sensing for few domains. Then we got funding from NAV Venture, which is a subsidiary of NABARD, to develop the product. So now we have products focusing on four main segments like agri input, agri output, crop insurance, water resource. In a very generic way, I'll talk about what we are doing for different segment, not going to too much delve into products, and what value we can add for the farmers. Next slide, please. So I'll not go into detail of the large number of problem we have in agriculture, because we have all the agribusiness student and you are much more aware of all these segments. But if you look at, let's say we talk about the soil testing part, we don't have many soil testing lab in India. Hardly few labs are there, and they may not be even sorry. Not even 1% of the farmer who are using soil health report. So what are the implications if farmer don't know how much nutrients are available in the soil, and depending upon the crop type how much they need to apply, we are applying suboptimal input or the fertilizer. It has two implications. Let's look at my region in sugarcane. Farmer use lots of urea and other things are used very less. So when you are putting so much of urea and not the other required nutrient, you are spending more money and you will get less yield, because you are not providing to the crop what all nutrient they need. So if you have a soil testing report, you can figure out what is required by a farm, and then you can provide the optimal quantity. So in this way, you will spend less money and you will get the more yield. So this is the basic idea, let's say, of this parameter. Similarly, you talk about, let's say, pest and disease. Typically, I have seen farmers going to retail shop. They will say, my crop is looking yellow, or there is some, pest, but they don't know the name of the pest or disease. And retailer may sell whatever wherever they have more margin. So if we can tell farmer what is the disease which may come, they can take preventive action. And if they know the symptoms, they know the generic product name, then they can buy the product which is suitable for their needs. So we are trying different ways to make use of satellite data, to make use of all the other data, and with the analytics to provide the information to the farmer which can add value for them. Similarly, you look at from the agriculture company's point of view, because many of you are going to work in some of the company. Let's say for your marketing campaign, if you have a product which is suitable for, let's say, banana, so you need to figure out where you have more banana. So either you can manually go, but in how many farms you can visit, and it will require lots of time, lots of cost. So what we try to do, we take the satellite data and figure out where this crop is, what is the current status. So there are various ways we are trying to add value for a different kind of player in the ecosystem. Next slide, please. So there are other challenges for farmer. One thing briefly I talked about the higher input cost and lower crop productivities. The other problem is, you might have heard a lot about precision farming, where you can provide to the farmer what is the optimal required quantity. Typically, precision farming is done with the help of IoT sensor, which cost a lot. The price may vary, but approximate cost is about 2 lakh rupees per hectare, which is very huge. And we know in India we have more than 80% small and marginal farmer. So a large number of farmer in India cannot adopt this practice because of very high price. So that is the very major limitations. We have very few farmers who practice some part of precision farming. So when we take satellite remote sensing data, we get a lot of free raw data coming from NASA, coming from European Space Agency, coming from ISRO at very nominal price, and there are some agencies. Of course, we need to add a value, which is our expertise as a company. Then we can tell farmer how much they need to apply. So it's nearly zero cost. Where you spend about 2 lakh rupees per hectare in a year, here it costs just about approximately 1,000 rupees per year, which is very nominal. So we say you can do nearly at in zero cost, you can do precision farming. So a large number of farmer can adopt, and the benefit will be, or ROI will be much better. You know what farmer, the benefit they can reap out of this practice. There are other challenges, like about 50% of agriculture area in India is about rain fed. So their farmer depend upon, let's say, groundwater irrigation. So what happens, there are many states and many districts and talukas in India which are having severe drought, groundwater stress. They are critical in semi-critical states, because farmers are using more water compared to how much recharge is going to the groundwater. So you can see a declining trend in groundwater table. So why it's happening? Because irrigation efficiency is very low. We get about 30%, 40% irrigation efficiency, hardly at the national scale. So one way can be you can solve this problem by doing the hardware things. You can apply drip irrigation, all the other micro irrigation thing, but also you can make information available to the farmer by depending upon the crop stage, depending upon the kind of weather you have, how much irrigation they need to apply, how much should be the quantity, how much should be the frequency. So there are different way a problem can be solved. The infrastructure for micro irrigation costs a huge amount of money, though government provide a subsidy, and it doesn't last for very long. So maybe I feel both the solutions can be combined. The information can also be provided to the farmer, how much they need to irrigate, they need to irrigate, and combined with the hardware for the micro irrigation. So there are various ways we can solve a problem and it can make more impact. Next slide, please. So in terms of technology, largely we use satellite remote sensing data I mentioned, and but we also use the data provided by the farmer or the data coming from the government portal, coming from the agriculture universities. So we combine all of them and we have the platform like web application, mobile application, and if there is some agriculture company who is working with the farmer, they can redo, of course, it will take time and resources, or they can integrate our solution in their application and they can provide it to farmer. So we are working with many such company who take solution from ours and integrate in their existing application and then give it to their farmer or some other kind of end user. So all these kind of options are there for company so they can grow faster. Next slide, please. Just to tell you briefly about the remote sensing, maybe another sir has more to talk about the remote sensing also. So what is remote sensing? Like, as human, we have 5 senses. There are some senses like with hand or the touch where we need to be physically be there. We need to touch to figure out what kind of object it is. But there are some senses, let's say eyes or ears, where we can be far away from the object. We can, see, we can hear, and we can figure out what kind of object it is. So when we are sensing remotely, it's called remote sensing. So human also do remote sensing, or our mobile camera is also remote sensing equipment. When we make as a human, we can see or hear only in few wavelength. But when we make an electronic instrument, it can work in any wavelength. So this is one electromagnetic spectrum. You can see different kind of wavelength, and you can see some of the commonly used object, like we see this AM radio and the amplitude modulation radio or frequency modulation radio. We use mobile, which is also works in the remote sensing principle, or the our microwave, the oven we have, or the remote, or the remote for our car. All these instruments use some kind of wavelength to send the signal, to receive the signal, and then figure out the information about the object. Same principle applied in satellite remote sensing, where we take a instrument, put it on a satellite, which revolves around the earth, and it provides us the regular information. So based on this, we can figure out what kind of object it is, and this is the same thing we use to figure out how much or different properties of the crop type or the crop on the any farm in the globe, and that's how we provide the service. So this is the basic core of the remote sensing. Of course, this is very vast domain and it cannot be covered in few minutes, but just to give a glimpse, how it works, it's not a magic. So there are some science behind it. That's how we provide the information. Next slide, please. So one solution we have, it's called Set to Farm, and it's a mobile app available in Play Store. So largely we have 5 applications. First, we are providing the nutrient information, how much NPK, soil organic carbon, and pH value every farm has. So farmer just need to geotag their farm and they start getting all this information. They get information on the precision farming, how much water they need to apply or other input they need to apply, all the recommendation what practice they can do in certain kind of weather. Because many times what happens, let's say farmers are spraying some pesticide and tomorrow heavy rain comes, then all the solution is wasted. So we figure out what is the best time for spraying by looking at other parameters like delta T approach, and then we recommend the things. We take best package of practice from the satellite, from the universities, and provide it to farmer. So these are the kind of things we do. So largely satellite remote sensing, but we look at some other technologies also, other information also, to provide a complete solution to the farmer. Next slide, please. For the companies, we are working for agriculture companies. It might be input or output. We are working with irrigation companies, which is part of agri input, with crop insurance companies, with rural bank. So what we do, we take the same information at the large scale or for the farmer. Let's say for the credit part, as a salaried person, I have my income tax return, I have my CIBIL score, I can go to a bank and they can figure out how much loan they can give it to me, and the process is very fast. But for a farmer, largely there are no formal transactions. So how do we figure out the credit history of farmer? So we take the satellite data, figure out what is the cropping history of last 3 years, 5 years, how many crops they are growing in a year, what are the kind of crop they are growing, how much the drought risk, how much is the flood risk, what is the likelihood. So all this history we try to generate with the help of satellite data, which is used by the bank to provide the how much loan can be given to a farmer. Similarly, for the crop insurance, a farmer has taken loan and loan of insurance value. Once insurance is not so much that company can send one manual person and verify it. So with the help of satellite data, we can verify how much loss is there. So it helps in company figuring out which are the genuine claims, which are not genuine claim, and it makes a faster payment for farmers. So it helps both the side. Similarly, for agriculture companies, they can figure out, let's say, how much is sugarcane area or how much is banana area or coconut area, and based on this they can optimize the supply chain, or they can make marketing campaign focused on those areas for their product. So there are various use cases which can be derived out of this product. Next slide, please. So these are the areas we are focused on. Of course, farmers is our major user base, client base. Then we are working with seed companies, agri input company like fertilizer, the pesticide and irrigation companies. We are working with agri lending or the banks with agriculture insurance, and with several government departments are, so these are the clientele we have. And currently we are working with about 100 companies to provide different kind of services. Next slide, please. Just to give you one sample example, to figure out, let's say, coconut area, how many coconut trees are in entire India. It's very difficult task if manually we send the person. So we took the satellite remote sensing data and then we figured out in different years how many coconut trees are there, and it works very fast. Within a week we get the data, and you can go to any farm scale or you can aggregate to taluka, district or state level and see what is happening. And not only in India, without physically visiting in Sri Lanka, in Myanmar, we figured out how many coconut trees are there. So that company can optimize their supply chain. They can see from where, how they can minimize the risk, from which source they can, source the product and make run their operation smoothly. Next slide, please. This was one application we did for government of Karnataka. In Karnataka, there are several parts which are prone to drought. So if we want to do applications like cloud, we have limited resources. So we need to use our resources judiciously. So two things are very critical for cloud seeding program. One thing, we need to see where clouds are there, because then only rain can be created. But very important thing is the soil moisture also. We need to see which are the area where drought is there. So you can see in this image, red color and yellow color means drought is there, and blue means we have saturated soil. So other thing we need to be careful is, if by chance we create rainfall in an area which is already saturated, it can create flood and it can create more damage. So we should not be spending money on creating damage for us. So we take the satellite data and we know how much soil moisture is there. So based on this, we can make optimal plan where to target for the cloud seeding. This is how this program was running for about 100 plus days, and next day we can see how much impact we has created. So this was very well praised program, because scientifically we were using the input data, and that's our planning, not based on the other kind of decision. In this district you can target, or some other district you can target, and we knew in each every farm which are the farms which need more irrigation, which need less irrigation. So that's how we were running this program. Next slide, please. So there are many use cases. I just touched few overview what all we can do. We are working with many farmers for different kind of uses. They see with the help of, let's say, early warning for pest and disease, or when they get to know what is the exact pest and disease, or how much nutrient they need to apply. So all this kind of solution we apply. The main advantage you can take is how it can benefit you is, one of the question you were asked, what advice we can give to the startup. So there may be two kind of startup. If you want to start a company like similar to us, there's a lot of scope, and of course you need to work with the people on ground to understand what their needs are and what kind of solution we can provide. But other thing can be how you can use, the data we are providing, how you can build a business around it. We are working with many companies who take our data, optimize their marketing or the sales or the profit, or giving the some service, additional service to the farmer, and adding value to their business. So there are both the things you can look at. Agriculture is a very large sector. Many times we say it's one market, but agriculture is very, very difficult, very fragmented market. It takes a lot of effort to reach large number of farmers in India. So there is a huge scope. Of course, we need to work hard. We need to work on ground. It can't just be done by sitting in office. We need to go to ground, work with farmers, understand their need, and then see how technology can be used for them. So this is what we are trying to do. Thank you. Maybe after our session, we will have the question and answer. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Even after the webinar, you can reach out to me. We can discuss and then we can figure out. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for this session. It was very effective. So question will take towards the last 20 minutes of the webinar. So without wasting any time, now we will go with the session of the second speaker. And I would like to put to the kind notice of participant that there is a change in the second speaker, Dr. Raghunath P, with the delivery of session on behalf of P. Sir Pamivelan and Panivelan. Yeah, sorry for that. Dr. Raghunath P is an associate professor, soil science, Tamil Nadu Agricultural University. Dr. Raghunath P has over 10 years of experience in remote sensing and GSI application in agriculture. He have marked his name in many publications and research articles. Without wasting any time, I welcome Dr. Raghunath P to the session. So now the floor is all yours. You can now take up, sir. Please.
Thank you. Thank you for the short introduction. Good morning, all. So my session, I'll be presenting on the role of satellite interventions on agriculture development, opportunities for startups. So the earlier speaker, Dr. Satkumar, has touched the basics of remote sensing. So whatever the points that he has left, I'll just brief in a short, and I'll just start describing what are the applications that we do in Tamil Nadu Agriculture University, and what are the things that are taken up for application in the as a startups. Please, next slide. So as we know, the satellite, when we talk about satellite, it is a complex one, and the data that we receive from satellite is not that simple. We need more processing, and we need, we have to gain more to work on the satellite images or the pixels or the information that we get from the satellite. So the main issues that we face, like the stakeholders in agriculture management, is that they cannot easily afford or choosing a land based on or blindly without any information. The thing is, they have to find out where is the location, what is the topography, or actually what is the other accessory informations that are available with that land. So the main, or we can go for satellite remote sensing to address these issues. So you can, on the right hand side, you can see this, the different aspects of applications of satellites in agriculture, like agriculture land monitoring, crop area estimations. All these little bit has been already explained by the earlier speaker. Please, next slide. So again, to give a brief introduction on the remote sensing, how this works. So the leftover part is that the satellites, or there are two types of satellites. We have to understand first, because so how to use this satellite data first of all. So there are two types of satellites. One are resource satellites, which are moving around the earth in the north-south direction. So these are collecting the information, actual information on the resources of the earth. And the other types, geostationary satellites, which are mostly used for communication purpose. And this resource satellites also works on the principle of remote sensing. So the major principle behind this remote sensing is this three things are there. Say, like every object on the earth or any object scatters or reflects some quantity of electromagnetic radiation. So light, in general, what we say is the electromagnetic radiation, and it has a spectrum of wavelengths, and there are many properties associated with that. So this first principle on remote sensing is that any object or every object scatters or reflects some quantity of this electromagnetic radiation. And that reflection also, or emission or scattering of that object, follows a particular pattern that we call as the spectral signature. Okay, so this is very important to identify that object. So the third principle is proper interpretation of that particular signature leads to the identification of the particular object. So this is the basics of this remote sensing, or how it works. So whatever this satellite data that we collect, or the satellite will be having some sensors or different types of sensors which are used for different purposes. And these data are working in this principle. Like, we are identifying from the data that is collected from the satellite, we are identifying based on the information. So on the bottom, you can see there are different types of resolutions. Like satellite, we have to understand all satellite doesn't give very good images, or it is designed for different purposes. So some data are given in a small scale. That means it covers a larger area and gives very little information about the objects on the ground. And some satellites have very powerful sensors that can collect or precisely sub-pixel or sub-meter level resolution. That means very high resolution, or even a plant can be identified from the satellite data. So there are different types of satellites that first we have to understand. So when to use and where to use. This has to be understood before. Next slide, please. And this is something like, so when we talk about satellites, there are numerous number of satellites that are revolving around the earth, and they work in two principles, like passive remote sensing and active remote sensing. These satellites, when we use, or when we try to use more number of satellites, or for a particular purpose, when we try to use not only a single satellite but combination of different satellites, the information increases and the output also becomes better. So this is what the main thing that we have to understand as a startup, to not go for a single type of sensor or single type of satellite data. In order, we have to try to incorporate more number of satellites in order to have a better outputs. Next slide, please. Next. Yeah, we can pass this down. Next. Okay, in TNAU, so remote sensing work has started long back from 1995, and the remote sensing department was an unit in the soil science department. That's why we started as a started this remote sensing with the soil during 1995, and after that, so we involved in disaster, land degradation mapping, crop mapping, water mapping, and now we have stepped into the drone applications also. I'll just explain in each and every slide. Please, next. Okay, so coming to the soil, I think the earlier speaker also has given the importance of soil. So soil is the basic for agriculture, and that information is very important for any people or any farmer to manage his land. So in Tamil Nadu Agriculture University, so we have gone for a machine learning technique for determining this soil information, that is mapping or digital soil mapping. So soil is the output from the rocks already formed. So it is impacted by climate, organisms, and other things are there for climate. I mean, soil forming factors, and those soil forming factors are digitally made, and we use machine learning techniques. Around 42 environmental covariates are involved, and we produce the digital soil mapping. That means, so the soil's information is given at 30-meter resolution. 30 meter by means 30 meter by 30 meter, 30 square meter resolution. That means it is having more information rather than the old soil maps. So the soil maps in India, they have at 1:250,000 scale or 1:50,000 scale. So this has been refined, and we are going to sub-pixel levels, or we are managing to get more information from the soil. Next slide, please. And Then this is the output that I have showed, like predicting the soil classes, and each and every soil class has its own property. And on the middle, we have seen, you can see the number of covariates or the types of environmental covariates that we have used for predicting the soils. Next. The second thing in the soil itself, the prediction of soil nutrients. So that is also a big challenge. Say the normal method is going for soil testing, getting the information, and we can recommend whatever based on the soil data that we get. But so as the earlier speaker, again, I'm just acknowledging the earlier speaker that so visiting each and every field and taking the soil samples and analyzing, it's a very tedious job. So how to overcome this thing? So we have come out with a technology with hyperspectral remote sensing, where the nutrients can be predicted based on the values. So hyperspectral remote sensing, it works with a range of bands or wavelengths. And from that, each and every nutrient, we make some regression equations. And from that, we try to finalize or we come out with how much nutrient is there, like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, etc., and organic carbon also. Majorly the major nutrients and organic carbon. Next. And the third thing is the generation of cadastral maps. And this is also one of the important thing that we have to look into, like each and every farmer has its own land, and that land has to be marked or geotagged. So how it is going to happen? Either we can use mobile apps, or else the first form is using the cadastral maps or the village maps, digitization of village maps. So, and this digitization of village maps is the base for any recommendation to the farmers. So, and this is also an important thing. And the main problem in digitization of the cadastral map is getting the latitude and longitude or the coordinates or the ground control points. And the satellite gives it's a very good technology to get the or collect the ground control points, so that we can georeference the cadastral maps, and which becomes the basis for any say technology transfers to the farmers. Next, please. And based on this soil information that we make, so in Tamil Nadu, based on the data that we supply to the government, an announcement has been made in the budget itself, like Tamil Manvalam. All the information goes into the portal, the Tamil Manvalam portal, and this is going to be given, or it is going to address the farmer's need for nutrient recommendation and also crop suitability. Right, next. And coming to the second part, so the first thing is the soil, and the second thing is the crop area mapping. And so here in crop mapping, the main problem, what we face in Tamil Nadu especially, is that like the major cropping season is Rabi season. Rabi season, and mostly this Rabi season will be having more amount of clouds. So in remote sensing, the problem is the major, or a decade back, mostly optical remote sensing was in action. Like, so they use the light energy from the sun and the reflected energy from the object, and that is captured by the satellites. So mostly in the optical range, that means the visible range to the infrared region. So in this, the problem is this wavelength cannot penetrate the clouds. So if they are not penetrating the clouds, that means if there is a cloud over an area, so that area becomes blank, or it will be shaded, and there will be no information for that particular area. So in order to overcome this, we have just moved from optical remote sensing to microwave region, which is a longer wavelength, which can penetrate through the clouds and can see the information below. So this has led to a major advantage on crop mapping and crop area statistics development. So we are using microwave that to the European satellite, that is the Sentinel-1A. Next, please. And we are generating the real-time crop information. And this is how. So this Sentinel-1A is it can be got every 12 days. So for every 12 days, the information on the crop diversity and the crop information, like so how the crop is progressing, all this information could be gathered. Next, please. Next slide. We can clearly see that. So how we are differentiating different. So this is a satellite image. This is a stack of satellite image, around 13 images or 13 dates overlaid one over the other. And from that, the information is gathered for different crops. Like, so we can identify some area like cotton, maize, cashew nut, sorghum, rice, coconut, etc., etc. And these also need require ground truth points. The next slide I can show you. Next, please. So this is how technically we identify the crops. So even though I say in the earlier slide that I showed some different colors for like rice crop, cotton crop, etc. But actually, or scientifically, this is how we determine what is that particular area is, or the particular pixel represent. So we have generated a temporal signature. It's a different type, like backscattering of sentinel or microwave data. So temporal signatures are gathered for each and every crop. You can see the signatures that is differing for each and every crop. And based on this, we identify or map the area for different crops. Okay, next. And from that, the output or the subsequent application is that we can find out. So since we are gathering information every 12 days, the output that we can find here is we can find out the start of season, like each and every 12 days, how much area in a particular crop has been rice. Okay, so that information can be gathered very easily, and this is very helpful for the insurance purpose also. Start of season, if we find out, so how much area, so I think in India, this insurance PMFBY is being operated, Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, and that has a component for finding out whether the crop has grown in a particular area, in a particular within a date. So that information can be gathered from this. Next slide, please. And this is also again a smart sampling plan for crop cutting experiment, and crop cutting experiment maybe people might be knowing. So it's a tedious process. Every village they go for 4 number of samples. And whenever we have a contiguous area of a particular crop, there is no need of much data to be collected from crop cutting experiments. So in order to reduce that, we use the crop area mapping or the statistics that we derive from the cropping area involved in this to reduce the crop cutting experiments so that the efficiency can be increased. Next slide, please. And again, so whatever the area that we have generated using crop, that is linked with the crop growth models in order to estimate the yield also. So this will be very helpful in forecasting the yield. Say how, apart from crop mapping, we also determine the crop condition. So based on the condition and the area, we can just pull out this information or put this as an input to the crop growth models, and we can find out how much yield is going to be available in the end of the season. So this rice yield estimation is also possible through crop mapping. Next. And these are the techniques that we use. So we use different models or regression analysis using the satellite data or involving this satellite data with some semi-spherical, semi-physical approaches in order to gather the information or draw this yield. Next. And the third part is the disaster management. And we are also involved in all types of disasters that is happening in Tamil Nadu, because since Tamil Nadu Agriculture University, our boundary is within Tamil Nadu, we are more concentrating on Tamil Nadu. So these are some of the outcomes from our TNAU, and based on this, like we have found out the flood, this drought or progression of drought, then Gaja cyclone. In this Gaja cyclone, we have involved drones also, and we have counted each and or how many number of trees actually has been uprooted. So this was a great information to the government in order to get the relief measures. Next. So I'll just touch quickly. So how we are assessing the drought. So there are around 6 indices. Out of that 6 indices, 4 are out of can be generated from using satellites, and we are generating all this like NDVA, NDWA. So normalized difference vegetation index, normalized difference water index, moisture adequacy index, SPI, that is the SPI, and rainfall departures. All those things are being generated from the satellite data. Next. Then this is about the flood generation or flood maps that we created. As I told you, the Sentinel or the microwave data is more powerful in gathering the information about the water content. That means it is more sensitive to 2 things. One is the surface roughness, and second one is the dielectric constant. Dielectric constant is the water content. So from Sentinel data, the water availability or the water spread can be easily got through, and we have monitored for the floods. Next. And this one, we have combined the cropping area and the flood disaster, whatever has happened, and what is the impact on the crops. So that also can be included. Next. And the next thing is the crop health monitoring. Mostly NDVA is being used from the satellite data. So in order to monitor the crop condition. And here in TNAU, we have developed 2 tools. One is hyper analyst tool, and second one is a crop analyst tool, which can be used for assessing the crop health. Next. The next thing or the final thing is the water resource management. So one of the important thing in using the satellites, because we have a number of, I think we are running short of time. Okay, so in India, so there are number of tanks that are supplying irrigation water, or it's a major source of water. So the quantity or the water that is available in each and every tanks, the information is lacking. So for that, so using the satellite data, so we are generating, so from the Sentinel itself, every 12 days, what is the water spread in each and every tanks. And we are not stopping within this. We are also moving towards how to estimate the volume of water that is particularly available in each and every tank. Next slide, please. I'll just show you that. So using the drone technology, next. Yeah, so using the drone technology, we have estimated, or the digital elevation model of each and every tank is being taken, and the satellite, from the satellite data, we are finding out the water spread area. So matching this thing, so we are coming out with the volume in each and every tank. So this is a important thing where the startups can look into. So use of drones and the satellite imageries, so that the information on the tanks can give, or it will be very helpful for how much water is available and how much will be available for irrigation, and how it can be judicially used in that particular area. So this is a very important output from the satellite and the drone images. Next. Okay, so
Sir, can we take a few questions?
Yes, why not, please.
Yeah. Okay. Sir, this question is for Mr. Sat Kumar Tumer. Sir, as you told that lack of data is one of the major challenge for precision farming in India. So when you depend on the data from the satellite images and other details, so how difficult it is to process? Say suppose considering the weather conditions in India, so sometimes the data may not be clearly available. So how difficult it is to process and analyze the data so that proper farm advisory services can be given to the farmers.
So there are two parts. For the cloud part, we can use microwave data. Like sir also talked about, we have this RISE set, radar imaging satellite, which was not working. Again, ISRO launched. We have Sentinel-1. So microwave can work even in the case of clouds. That's not an issue. Main critical thing is developing the algorithm, which require lots of effort and resources. You need to collect lot of ground truth data, develop an algorithm, and it has to be one scalable algorithm. If you develop it for X area, approach may work for X area. You need to test your approach in different kind of setting, in different kind of area to see, yes, you can provide information at large scale. So that is the challenging part, and yes, it takes time.
Okay. Sir, I have a question for Dr. Raghunath.
Yeah,
Sir,
please.
since you told the details about how this satellite imagery can be used in agriculture development, I believe that TNU definitely will be having a lot of facilities for startups to support who are working in this domain. So, can you please explain me like what support system the startups can expect from TNU, especially related to this domain?
Well, so in TNAU, we have a separated directorate called ABD. That is an Agribusiness Development Directorate, where the startups can enroll themselves. And whatever the technology that we generate from Tamil Nadu Agriculture University, it is given to the startups through that directorate. So we can say supply the technologies that is developed, and also we can support the initial startups. I mean setup for the startups, so that we can manage.
Okay, okay, so are there any specific training programs or anything is available for aspiring entrepreneurs as well who wants to get into this domain?
So as of now, there are some trainings like in the Department of Remote Sensing, they conduct trainings. That is not especially for, that is more of technical trainings. So how to use this remote sensing data or the satellite data and drones for mostly the scientists of universities and the ICR institutes. So for particularly the startups, there are no trainings as of now. It is designed. Maybe we can say through the agribusiness directorate itself. So we can start that type of trainings if that is required, or if some queries has been raised for this purpose. So that can be done surely. That's not a problem.
Okay, okay, thank you. I have another question from Mr. Aruneshwar, who is attendee of today's session. He's asking whether satellite imagery itself is enough to give precision farming advisory, or we need any specific device like Fasal cropping to be deployed at the field level. This question is for Sat Kumar Tomer.
See, two things we need to look at when we talk about physical device. We also need to look at which variable we are measuring. So if you want to put device at the field, you need to look into what kind of parameters you are getting. Let's say weather parameter, soil, all the kind of nutrient, the soil moisture, all these things you need to see. It's not just about one device. Second thing is, if we look at most of the satellite data, it's available at about, let's say about 10 meter by 10 meter. So if we talk about one farm of 1 acre, it's approximately 60 meter by 60 meter. So we get 36 pixels from the satellite data. You look at any farm, many image sir has shown, I have also shown. See, there is a huge spatial variability in a farm. If you put only one IoT sensor in a farm, it's not going to work. You may underestimate or overestimate the information significantly. Second thing is, many times we talk about IoT devices, like, I have worked a lot on soil moisture. A good soil moisture sensor costs 3-4 lakhs. Okay. There are many devices in market about 5,000, 10,000. Accuracy is not even 20%. Many times they don't work, and they, very totally out of the bound. So we need to look at many things, we need to look at things which are proven, which can capture spatial variability. in summary, if you want to know, why not try both, and then you will get to know, what are the advantage and disadvantage for the satellite based versus some individual device.
Okay, we have few questions from other attendees. Commander Kuldeep Mittal, he has a question. Sir, can you unmute the participant? Commander Kuldeep Mittal.
Hi, good morning. Can you see me? Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. You can start. You can
All
ask
right.
the question.
Okay, Jai Hind. I'm Commander Mittal. I'm 58 years old and I left the Navy 15 years ago. So the amount of landmass that we have, so I'm from the communication branch and I'm MSc in satellite communications. And I've been given 2 medals by the President of India for contributions to the Navy, Army and Air Force in satellite-based communications. So when I was taking part in the operation, some operation against a particular friendly country, at that time we realized that most of the satellites then by ISRO were land-based, land-centric. So most of the action was going on the land, and we needed support in the sea, in the Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean. So I conceived of a plan. I can't call myself a startup because I was in the Navy that time. Today I'm too old to be a startup. I think most of you will not be even accepting me because your criteria of startup will be less than 27 years old, probably. So having said that, I designed the entire system architecture for all the ships, submarine, aircraft on that area, which was about 3 times the size of the Indian landmass. So this took me about 3 years because at every stage there was a hurdle, I would say, to cross. And possibly we accomplished it in about, accomplished it in about 3 years. And then by 2006, it was approved as a Cabinet Committee on Security. And then finally the satellite was made with a lot of innovations. I can't even count the number of innovations that we have possibly done in the design part. So although I'm a double MSc, I'm not really an IT person. And so ones and zeros are Greek and Latin to me, but I'm a user. I can take out maybe 1,000 other applications of it, which probably will spawn, which will create an environment of about maybe 100 more people, startups who can do this. So then the naval satellite was launched in 2013, which is GSAT 7, then 7A, 7B. So that is how we got the 4th dimension in the warfare by using GSAT. So by using GSAT itself, you can use so much of data. And now 20 years down the line, in any case, now you have the coverage in the ocean. So sky is the limit for applications. You can think about fisheries. You can think about, low water areas. You can think about exclusive economic zones. And obviously there are 100 more applications. I've been listening to Dr. Sat Kumar and Mr. Raghunath. I can't see anybody else on this. Is really eye-opening, and I would like to register myself because there are, but I will need the support of at least 10, 15. We have a Zilla Sainik board in every single district of this country, which is meant for Fauji's. And Fauji's like me retire at 35, 40 years old after having, in their entire youth on ships and submarines and aircraft. So they start retiring around 35, 40. The government is paying them handsome pension, which is good enough. We don't need any government grant. We don't need any funding. And that contribution, that potential to contribute is so immense, so immense. I mean, it is amazing. I'm possibly not even 1% as intelligent as the balance of the 99% people are, seriously. So, even just that small emotional support is more than enough for us, more than enough for us. We can create a change in the agriculture system, the kind that you can never even imagine. When I started off in the Navy, people thought that I was a joker. And I was not proving them wrong.
Yeah, sir, sorry to interrupt, sir. Do you have any specific question to the speakers?
Yes. The specific question is
please,
that,
sir, because we are running out of short of time. If you have any question, please ask them.
the question is, where do I register? In Manage or with TNU? Who is looking after the overall? First question is, how many startups are there in the satellite communication space, SATCOM space, with the agriculture department?
Okay, Dr. Raghunath sir, you can.
TNA is a more of a technical institute, and we develop the technology, and we are giving the technology to the users. As of now, the startup in GIS or the satellite technology, we don't have registrations with us. So
Okay.
maybe we can contact with the Agribusiness Development Directorate so that they can register in this domain and they can use our technology. So this is from TNA.
I have been trying for the last 45 days, sir, 1.5 months. I have found so many incubators. I made a Google group. There are about 800 people on the Google group. It's possibly the largest Google group of startups and FPOs and government officers. So I just need that start point. I just need a yes from some organization that says, okay, fine, you register with me. And I don't need any support. I just need access to whatever support system that the government is, offering us through that system. And then we can take on this entire field with the help of 4Gs, retired 4Gs, every single district. So whatever data that you want on the ground, everything, and whatever the startups need, it will be a force multiplier for all the startups. So who can answer this question?
Sure, sir. Yeah, in fact, Manage is having a scheme from Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, that is a Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana. Under that, there is a separate component to support innovators and agripreneurs who are working on innovative technologies related to agriculture and allied sectors. So RKVY-RAFTAAR, that is the project. So the startups or the innovators, they can get financial support up to 25 lakh rupees. That's a grant in aid. The startups can avail from us. So in fact, by end of this session, we will share the details of our website also. You can go and check the details, or you can get in touch with our team personally. So we will guide you regarding that, sir. So the training required for agribusinesses and handholding for the early stage startups is taken care by Agribusiness Incubation Centers established by Government of India across India. So there are 29 such incubation centers, and Manage is one such incubation center, and also it is a center of excellence and a knowledge partner, including TNAU Agribusiness Incubation Center. So definitely we will take your request, sir. It is recorded, and we will get in touch with you, and we'll see whatever help you require. We'll try to extend that support from Manage.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. God bless you all in your endeavors. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. So we have another question from Ketan Kumar Chaudhary. He is asking, is it possible to estimate water parameters such as temperature, pH, dissolved oxygen in pond or ocean water? So any of the resource person can take this question and answer this. So can I repeat the question again for you?
DO is very difficult, I feel. I have not worked on DO. One second. Yeah. But there are other things, like turbidity, etc. Those kind of things can be figured out about the water. And maybe there is a correlation because, when the water is clean, maybe DO is good. That kind of things can be studied. But DO directly may not be possible in small or the larger water bodies. Can you tell me the use case for what you are looking for? Is it for aquaculture or for something else?
So that hasn't been specified clearly in the question. So let us consider especially for agriculture purposes.
Few things can be done. Turbidity, etc. There are indices related to turbidity and those kind of things. Water is clean or not. Those things can be figured out from the satellite-based data. How much of water volume or area is there? Like sir also presented a case study that can be provided for large number of water bodies monitoring you can do. So few things can be done, but there may be one or two parameters which are not possible based only on satellite data.
Yeah, as you rightly pointed out, that satellite data, directly from satellite data, these parameters cannot be generated, but drones is the other option that they can go for. So estimating all these types of data. That is a possibility. Using thermal, say thermal wavelengths, that temperature and other things can be gathered. That's not a problem.
Okay, good. So with this, we will end today's Saturday webinar series. There were a few more questions in the chat box. So I'll share the details of both the resource persons, their email IDs. So participants who did not get opportunity to ask questions directly, or whose questions were not taken during the session, can send an email to the speakers and get your queries resolved directly from them. Or else you can send it to us so that we can get the answers from the speakers and summarize that to you. So I thank both the speakers on behalf of Manage CIA, and I thank all the participants for sparing their valuable time in attending this insightful session. Before we leave from the webinar, kindly fill the feedback form. The link has been shared by our team in the chat box. So please click on the feedback form and fill it. And please visit our official website where our upcoming program details are already mentioned there. So we have invited applications for Manage Agri Eureka. It's a national level Agri Innovation and Business Challenge. So any individual startup or any innovator having an innovative idea in area of agriculture and allied sectors, they can present their ideas and get a chance to avail grant in aid up to 25 lakh rupees from Government of India through Manage. So the application deadline is 15th October. So kindly visit our official website and you can fill the form. And we have invited applications for digital marketing certification program for startups who are into agriculture and allied sectors. So even that deadline is still open. And we have invited applications for pre-incubation program. So those who have just an idea, who don't know how to refine their idea and convert their idea into prototype, they can register themselves into this pre-incubation program. So like this, Manage is organizing a variety of programs. All the details are available in our website. And there was one suggestion from one of the participant in the chat box. So they requested to arrange a detailed training session on today's topic. Definitely, we will put it forward in front of our management, and we see that in association with startups and TNA, we will definitely try to come up with a detailed training program for the benefit of startups and other innovators. So once again, thanking you again on behalf of Manage CIA. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.